You're amazing. I think every day you've been the first one to say hello. Oh, it is awesome. You win prize. It's not prize, sorry. Otherwise, we're going. Let's see here. Let's see. Because our 2023 Timing of the AIDS course starts tomorrow. And I'm going to be going so you can check it out and join us.
Yeah.
We would love to have you there. So
A lot of recording today and
yeah,
for
we're
through the back and for the German.
yeah,
Time.
and
And English should be easy as
adding new content into the Timing of the AIDS course.
so long. Sorry to fade them. I'm getting
Yes,
tired.
fine.
To focus a lot on
Focus.
the
You can
recording and stuff. I
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So, if you could check out that link for the Timing of the AIDS course, the information about the new content we're adding isn't even on that page because it's something we just decided to do. So we're adding in exercises that you can ride. Really, the course is about you, the rider. It's about improving your aids, your communication, your timing, your feel, your awareness, all of these things that help you to be a better rider, right? But people were asking for what sort of exercises they could practice these things doing. And so we've now added a module with just
You know,
exercises.
simple but very important patterns that are like real world settings in which you can practice the timing of the aids, but also the coordination, right? Because nothing ever happens in a vacuum. Everything is always in a certain setting, in a certain context, and then you have to give a weight aid and turn your pelvis and then a leg and then a rein and a half hold and then things like that. So and practicing these sequences of aids, like shifting the weight, changing the bend, turning the horse's shoulder in the other direction. They're very basic and very, very important. They will occur in every single session that you ride your horse, and they stay with you all the way to Grand Prix.
I would say not basic, but they're foundational. Basic kind of implies that it's a kind of land, but it's foundational. It's super. It's what you build your structure of all the training on.
And the sooner you master those with a horse, the easier everything else will be. And if there are holes in these foundational combinations and sequences, then this will haunt you forever all the way to Grand Prix. And it may make it impossible to write flying changes and things like that. Right? It's that important and that
It gets more, yeah.
basic, but that basic does not necessarily mean easy. It's needs polishing, needs practicing.
Basic just has this connotation of so basic, and so that's why I prefer the word foundational. That really, it's so important for everything you do.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know you hear that from us with everything. The straightness is important. The movement of the back is important. All of these things are. What we do is each one of our courses, we take a spotlight on one particular aspect. This is a spotlight on the rider's ability to communicate with the horse. So that's the seat aids, the leg aids, the rein aids, the knee aids, the thigh aids. It's not just all leg, right? The spur aids, all of this. The different kinds of rein aids, all the different weight aids, and then combining these into different ways. And we group it by function, essentially. So it's a really fun way of looking at and learning the aids and learning how to refine the aids. I mean, it's easy to say, I know how to now, okay. But it's so much more than just that. Writing is so much more than just gait, just use the rein, you know. There's so much refinement available, so much opportunity there for refining and your communication, making it more sophisticated. And that gives you the pathway to really being able to ride in a very fine way, very, very precisely, very quietly, very subtly. Say subtly, new words. I think it is so subtly. It just sounds weird. Anyway, the course begins tomorrow. I'd love to see you in the course. We're going to be talking about something related to that today. So we're going to be talking about the quality of the horse's movement. Why this is something even that's important. We should talk about that and talk about that in the journal. We're going to talk about that today. Why that's even important, and how you can influence the horse's quality of movement through your seat and your aids, and of course the timing of your aids. So let's go. By the way, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them into Q&A or the chat, whether you're watching us on Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube. We also are live in our Artistic Dressage community, so our Facebook group. Yeah. So let's dive in. I'm gonna go check all those places right now, real quick. Keep going. I just did.
Yeah, so when we rode with Volker, he would often talk about developing the horse's gaits. That was important for him, and it was important for the old masters because historically most horses didn't have especially spectacular gaits, right? They were often a little choppy, not a lot of suspension, not very spectacular. And so the riders had to make the most of what the horse had, right? And improve the gaits and make them as big and soft and elastic and bouncy as they could. Now, if you look at modern sport horses, it's a different situation, right? They've bred so much for big, spectacular movement that it's almost gone too far right now. The horses are hypermobile, and you almost have to tone them down a little bit and stabilize. Otherwise, they probably go lame after a while if they fling their legs around too much. But when you have a horse that is not hypermobile, and the more older style warm bloods or other breeds that were not bred for big spectacular gaits, then developing the gaits, making them bigger, making them more elastic and so on is still a concern. And the way we look at it, it's also a healthy movement, because in a way that the gaits of the horse become more beautiful when they're free of constriction and tension and bracing and resistance and so on, right? So that the energy can flow through the body. And the way to optimize the horse's gaits is through balancing the horse, straightening the horse, suppling the horse, finding muscle blockages and removing them with specific targeted exercises, finding hypermobile areas, false bends where the energy leaks out of the horse, and then patching them up and closing the gap, stabilizing the horse. In making the gaits more elastic and bigger, you teach the horse to use the footing a little bit like a trampoline, rather than a racetrack where the sprinters run, so stirrup stepping plays a big role. Like you push the horse into the footing and allow him to bounce back. So by sending the an impulse down through certain legs and allowing the horse then to bounce back off of the footing, creates more elasticity and it creates a bigger movement. Transitions play a big role. This engaging a hind leg, flexing the hind leg, and then allowing the hind leg to extend and push. So you increase that range of motion, you increase the engagement, you increase the flexion, you increase the extension. So the gaits become bigger and more powerful over time. That will transform some horses to the point where people don't recognize them after a few years, where they think that you bought another horse. And especially when you have a horse with sort of mediocre gaits, not much suspension, and so on. And the people don't see you for 3 years, and they come back, and then they don't recognize the horse. They think you bought a new one.
Yeah.
But you've just developed the natural gaits of that horse. That's actually the biggest compliment. Right? If somebody says, "Oh my God, this is such a nice horse to be buying,"
I love that.
Yeah.
That makes me giggle. It's like,
It's the best thing,
yeah, it's
best
great.
compliment you can get, really. Connecting the feet to the ground plays a big role. When you can access the ground through all 4 feet and there's no resistance to your weight going through the leg into the ground and back, then the back of the horse can move and swing, and the energy doesn't get blocked anywhere, right? And that's when you get bigger, more elastic gains. So the transitions play a role. Transitions also in within lateral movements, for example, you can do walk, halt, walk, trot, halt transitions in all the lateral movements. It's a really good way to develop the gait, especially shouldering. And there's a lot you can do in shouldering, stepping in patterns, stepping and driving, halting without changing the angle of the horse, right? And then you stop and then you continue the lateral movement. Same angle, same everything, right? And you can stop into the inside hind, you can stop into the outside hind, and the trot will gradually get bigger. When you ride half passes, that's a really interesting thing. Ride a half pass and then stop into one of the hind legs in the half pass, and don't let the horse change the angle, don't let the horse leave the line. And then maybe at the halt, you gather him up again, and then try to go from halt to trot within the half pass. That's not easy to do, actually, right? So, because horses may want to leave the line, they may want to change the angle and so on, but halt within that angle on the line and then do the up transition again. That requires quite a bit of discipline in a way on the horse's part and on the rider's part, and a great deal of suppleness and strength in the hind legs. And then you can do walk canter transitions in the half pass, especially. So you could start the half pass in the walk, then ask for a transition to canter. So you canter half pass, 3-4 strides, and walk again, and walk a few strides and canter. Or vice versa, when the horse is a little bit more farther along, you canter around the short side, begin your canter half pass, and walk in the canter half pass, and canter again, and walk again, and canter again. Or you can do haunches in on a circle line or on a vaulted. Ride the haunches in the walk, and then ask for a canter transition without allowing the horse to leave that circle and without allowing the horse to change the angle. Because a lot of horses will try to make the circle bigger, or they try to go to single track rather than keeping the haunches in. And if you can do these walk, canter, walk transitions, like 3-4 strides of canter and walk, and 3-4 strides canter, walk on a circle with the haunches in, it's a very intense workout for the inside hind leg. The inside hind has to take a lot of weight. You can do this on the long side of the arena too, of course. You can go haunches in, canter, walk, canter, walk, canter, walk. And the old masters in the Baroque and Renaissance eras did a lot of haunches in work, and they often did it with pretty extreme angles, actually. And so they would develop the collected canter that way, right? If you ride haunches in like this along the long side or on a circle, though you will feel how the forehand goes higher and higher, which means that at some point the main diagonal doesn't touch down together anymore, but the inside hind touches down first and then the outside front. So that's the school canter. And if you maybe increase the angle more and collect the horse more, then both hind legs start to move together, both front legs start to move together. It's this terre-à-terre kind of movement. And that's a 2-beat, right? So the canter goes from 3-beat to 4-beat to 2-beat. And yeah, it's very intense. These haunches in canters, especially if you have a steeper angle, requires a lot of energy, a lot of strength. But you can, improve the horse's canter that way. You can create a much more uphill canter and much more of a bounce than the horse had initially. But that's very upper level, right? You could also improve the canter through piaffe work, for example. You can improve the trot through passage work, right? So there's all these possibilities. Then I was not sure what to say.
You can improve the canter through the piaffe work and the trot through the.
Oh, yeah, right. And then
Just talking about this today, that's why we're talking about it now.
exactly. And then you can improve the gait through your seat, right? By if you think of like a skier that who skis down a slope that has little moguls in a way. So you could just glide down if it's gentle, right? Glide down the moguls and your skis never lose touch with the ground. Or you could take the moguls and push yourself up a little bit and maybe even flex your knees, and then you fly, you leap a little bit through the air and then you land again. And you can do the same thing. You can surf the wave of the horse's back, and once in a while you could send your weight or your energy down your knees to the ground and lift your pelvis a little out of the saddle. So you're not just passively letting the horse lift you up, but you send energy through your knees and thighs down, and that lifts your pelvis up to create space under your seat. And then with a little luck, the horse will lift his back more and stay in touch with your seat. If he doesn't, then you may have to drive a little with your leg or with your touch with the whip or something like that. So that also makes the movement of the back taller, makes the amplitude bigger. And today with my horse, I was working on making the trot a little bigger. I felt like he could put a little bit more effort into the work. So I go to like a shoulder in, and then in the shoulder in, I lifted my seat a little bit when the inside hind was in the air. I drove the inside hind to create more engagement, more reach of the inside hind, more lift of the back, and then I took that into a half pass. And in the half pass, I basically did the same thing. When the inside hind was in the air, I drove, I touched with the whip on the inside, and I swung up more. But in the half pass, people always tend to focus very much on the outside leg and crossing, and so they use their outside leg. I often focus on the inside hind leg and my inside leg, and the whip in the inside hand. I send the inside hind leg as far forward as I can. And
The
then
more the inside hind leg is really marching forward, the better the outside hind leg can cross. It's easy to get kind of wrapped up into just focusing on the outside hind leg. And it's not that that's not important, but you also don't want to neglect the inside hind leg.
yeah, the quality of a half pass depends very much on the engagement of the inside hind. And the
But
more,
how do you feel which hind leg is where?
I know it always comes back to that, right? Our method is very much it revolves very much around talking to individual legs of the horse,
The biomechanics.
driving with your leg when the hind leg is supposed to lift up, or stepping into a stirrup, half folding when the hind leg is on the ground or the front leg is on the ground. So you need to feel which leg is up, which leg is down.
You need to learn to feel.
You need to, you can explain how to do that. Because I had to learn that. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I had to really work at it to feel it and to learn it. But you can. I mean, if I could do it, I really can. Yeah. And there's something else I wanted to say. Yeah, so with the my horse is for some reason a little clumsy with the turns on the haunches. It's that he trips over his own feet and ties knots in his hind legs. So today I did passades, like large turns on the haunches, and I did the same thing I do in the half pass. I tickled the inside hind with a whip and made him go forward with the inside hind and then turn and go forward with the. So instead of focusing on turning, I focused on the forward of the inside hind, lift it, bring it under, and then as an afterthought, turn. That helped. So I'll have to pursue that for a little bit, and then hopefully, eventually, he'll be able to do decent turns on the haunches. I don't know why I'm so clumsy with it.
But it's great turns on the
I
floor.
know there's other things well.
Every turns on the haunches, even though the interesting thing is, I mean, the turn on the haunches, they have a biomechanical benefit for the horse. They help to supple the shoulders. They have a benefit even when the horse doesn't do it well. That's the crazy thing. But yeah, this horse likes to get, I mean, he has this habit of getting stuck behind. He came up to us that way.
I never liked the turns on the haunches for some reason. I was always surprised that nobody ever did that with him, apparently.
Yeah, and he kind of disconnects mentally
Mhm.
in the turns of the haunches. So we have to practice them.
Yeah, so I'm experimenting with my seat and how I can help him move better in it, you know. So with him, I think actually the solution is not what you normally do, sit down on the inside hind and turn, but it's almost more like lighten the seat when the inside hind comes up and slipping forward and then turn.
You know, Carl McCulkey used to teach this, so that you teach the turn on the haunches by really focusing on one step forward with the inside hind, one step forward sideways with the outside hind, one step forward with the inside hind, one step forward sideways. So it's not a really tight, like a pirouette turn on the haunches. At first, it's rather big.
Working pirouette, yeah.
It's big, but that's okay because you really want to instill this marching. And somebody along the way before us, they tried these with the horse and did it too tight too early. The horse got it in his head to pivot, to stick the inside hind leg on the ground and pivot and move around it. That, and this is not so desirable. The interesting thing is, even though it's not really desirable, there's still a beneficial effect to these turns on the haunches, even his bad turns on the haunches have a good effect on the horse.
Yes, so
We digress.
always.
We're talking about movements again, and movements, riding movements are a really important part of improving the quality of your horse's gaits. But so are your seating aids.
Right.
Yes.
It's always
Other toolboxes.
all tools.
We have 3 toolboxes, right? You have the exercises, you have the seating aids, and you have the movements. And you really need all 3. You can't separate one from the others. You really need all 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how you gradually improve the gaits, right, of the horse. And traditionally, people would always say you can only really improve the trot, but you can't improve the canter and the walk. But that's not true altogether. Of course, I mean, if you have a horse that will pace out in the pasture, then that's problematic, because then that will always be an issue.
You have your work cut out for you.
You can improve it, but it will tend to come in whenever the horse gets tense, whenever the horse gets distracted. They'll be a little pacey, but that's rare these days. I mean, there's still some bloodlines and some breeds that have a little bit of pacing in them. But if you have your regular walk, you can improve it, right? And if a horse has learned to pace or to jig, you can train that out of the horse again.
You have to be diligent though, it can be tricky once it's really ingrained in the horse, but it is possible, you can still ride a good walk with a horse that tends to get jigged or pacey. You need to really rely upon your seat units then, to really speak clearly to the horse.
If you have a horse that has a sort of a flat, scratchy, quick canter, you can at least give him a decent canter. It takes time, it takes more. The horse has to have a certain strength and balance and suppleness and so on. But you can definitely improve it. Or if a horse comes to you with a pacey sort of lateral canter or with a bad forebeat, you can fix that. I mean, we've had horses in training that came with a lateral canter, because somebody either sat too heavily or held them back and tried to collect with the reins or something like that.
It's often that something has become really habitually rigid in their body, often the rib cage. But it can be other parts too, and so we use our exercises, aids and movements to unleash this blockage, to unravel it. And it is kind of like unraveling a knot, or like people finger, you have to unravel it carefully. You have to unravel it bit by bit by bit. And you can rediscover the horse's natural ability underneath that and bring it out again. But it takes a long time.
Yeah,
It's possible.
exactly.
It
Yeah,
is possible.
but you can restore the purity of the gait, right? You can make take a lateral canter, make it 3 beat again. You can take the bumpy 4 beat where the outside front of the down curve and make that into a bouncy 3 beat canter. It can take a little while depending on how good the basic canter is that the horse is born with. Depends a little bit on how long it's been doing the bad canter, but you could definitely change it and improve it.
Yeah, it's maybe a little bit how you can really improve the quality of the trot, for example, like how you can take a kind of normal, mediocre, maybe a little lackluster trot that gets the job done, but it's nothing special to look at. And you can develop this and make it so that when people look at the horse, they go, wow, the horse, let's just say, let's take a quarter horse with a typical quarter horse trot, maybe it's acceptable, maybe not extraordinary. They're never gonna move like a $300,000 forefoot, right? Never going to move that way, but you can make it so that this horse can move to the best of his ability. I think that'd be interesting to talk a little bit about how we can use the seat and aids. Just take an example like the trot, how we can really bring out elements of the horse's movement. We can create more bounce and lift in the horse and more suspension essentially by using our seat and aids and exercises to help the hind legs to flex and bend. And then we get this, we were talking about this yesterday, this rebound effect. We were talking about this. This is tired. Go ahead.
In the trot you can amplify the trot by increasing the engagement. Then you use sidestepping with a bend against the direction of travel, like enlarging the circle, shoulder forward, shoulder in, counter shoulder in. Even legular and diagonal can help. So you bring the hind leg more underneath you, and then you follow up with something that flexes the hind leg. Could be a vault, it could be turn on the haunches, could be down transition.
Could be a half hole.
Yeah, half
A
vault,
really
stepping down
half
transition.
hole.
Yeah. And then you
Short
amplify the pushing again, and you can design exercises that focus more on one or the other, where you work on really engaging a hind leg, where you really work on flexing it, or you really work on making it push. But before the hind leg can push, it has to flex and sit. Before it can flex and sit, it has to engage, right? So it always sort of goes back to this: first bring the hind leg underneath, then sit on it, see how much you can squash it, and then make it squat. And then out of that, use that energy that's contained in the squat and let the horse push. And then it gets bigger and bigger over time. And I like to use the shoulder in to develop the trot, for example. So I have sort of standard little exercise that's simple, but it's very effective. So you ride your shoulder in down the long side in the trot, you step inside front, drive, inside leg, step outside hind, drive, inside hind. It's easy because rhythmically it's the same. All the aids are given when the main diagonal is up and the secondary diagonal is down, right? So 2 strides inside stirrup when the inside front is down, 2 strides inside leg when the inside hind is up, same time in the footfall sequence, right? Then 2 strides outside stirrup when the outside hind is down, in 2 strides, inside leg with the inside hand is up. So it's left, stirrup, left, leg, right, stirrup, left, leg. So you do that, and you can go, several laps around the arena like that.
So it sounds like this exercise is really designed to improve the engagement.
Exactly, yeah, you ground the secondary diagonal, which means the inside hind will take bigger and bigger steps. So you enhance the reach and the crossing of the inside hind. And then, so if you do this a little while, then you can at some point stop into the inside front and connect that more. And that stopping into the inside front, stepping into the inside front also has this effect of rounding the neck, releasing the pole, lifting the back, lifting the withers, right, and engaging the inside hind. And then you go again, trot, step, inside front, drive, outside hand, drive. And then one of those times you stop into the outside hind, so you make the horse sit a little bit more and come up a little bit in front. And this sort of combination can take a mediocre trot and make it pretty spectacular over time. It's what I did with Shana for a long time.
I remember he really, it was a mystery to me.
Mm-hmm.
I known him for a few years. And I watched him transform. Sometimes they had an okay trot.
It didn't have much suspension. It was not especially spectacular. It didn't have a real medium trot in that sense. With a good canter, it didn't have a very impressive trot.
No, he made it extraordinary.
He developed a medium trot and an extended trot.
Yeah,
with these.
that's not even what was extraordinary. What was extraordinary was the quality of the normal trot. That I've never seen. Actually, I've never seen a horse move with the full motion of all the joints like you made him move. It was really, really extraordinary. I always hold these images in my mind of what you watch a lot of horses. I can't do it yet.
Okay.
I wrote it down. I'm taking notes. That's what I do. That's why I had a good ride to
Charge you.
Okay, I'll charge you right back. But it was amazing. You could see his hind legs move like pistons. Like
there's a circular motion in the hind legs.
Like a lot of horses, they just swing them kind of forward and back, and there's a little bit of step down. But this horse really ended up, and he wasn't born that way to come to us that way. He had a really great canter, okay trot, But I bought the canter when I bought him because I wanted a really good canter. But he ended up with this trot that had this full range of motion, and then when I think about all the joints flexed, and then they sprang back up, and with nice suspension and everything is really extraordinary. And I've always been baffled.
It's those exercises. Shouldering is great to develop the gait, and then if
I'm gonna go do this with my horse. I'm gonna go ride them again right now.
So a lot of horses stab the ground with the hind legs. Like they go forward and then they extend the joints as they descend, and then they're almost fully extended when they hit the ground, and then they just jolt, and it's hard and it's stabbing. And the horses that are really supple and balanced, they have this circular motions like a cat, or these old train
that's what I'm
steam
the
steam locomotives, right?
The things move like that, right?
Right. Yeah. The wheels with the pistons that drive them, they have these circular motions. Yeah.
It's really how this horse moved. I've never seen any other horse move this way. He was not born this way. This was the training when I had this was my horse. And I was showing him, and then I got pregnant. And busy raising children, babies. I had another baby, too busy to ride, every time I tried to ride, the kids would cry, and it's impossible. So he took over the horse and was riding the horse. And It was just really easy.
It's
He was
fun.
really actually, it's a really tiny horse, so, and he's tall, so,
Mm.
you know, not optimal, but he made this horse. Like it was, really amazing. Yeah, and it's still, I mean.
I learned about from the horse actually, and yeah, he developed a nice medium trot. I mean, there were when everything was right, you kind of would ride maybe shouldering on the long side and then pointing on the diagonal, and he would just get bigger in front and bigger. And I didn't even have to drive; he would want to lengthen because I liked him so much. And he's like, I want to go, you know, and I just had to.
And because he
Regulation.
had such good range of motion, it was possible, it was within the realm of his possibility to do that to an extent. You know, he had really developed this, it's like having power plus yoga, you know, power yoga, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, you can take a horse that has sort of mediocre trot and you can develop
Absolutely.
a decent or good medium trot.
And that was your exercise, but it was also your aids, it was, you know,
yeah.
feel the footballs, tying your half hooks, tying your stirrup stepping. It's really a combination of these, and actually it was an exercise, lateral movement, and the seat and aids. So all three toolboxes were at play here.
Yeah, I find that interesting. I find it interesting to develop the gaits and make them bigger and better and change them for better.
I think maybe myself, I'm better in the canter for really shaping the canter, getting a really nice uphill canter that really kind of balances, but that trot. I'm gonna keep learning.
This trot needed more improvement than the canter. The canter was
Yeah, I bought the canter.
but the trot was very unspectacular.
It really was.
There was just
It got us by, you know, but it was not his strong suit.
Yeah.
He's a retired person.
and you know, there are trot horses and there are canter horses, you know, so some horses have the canter is the best gait, and then they have a you know unspectacular trot. And some horses have a really good trot, but not a good canter. It's like my Lusitano stallion is a trot horse. And the canter is a piece of work, I have to say. It was a little lateral when he came to us, and
Scratchy.
yeah, he kind of struggles with it a little. Struggles with
It's
making
not
it
his choice.
round and bouncy. And
I think he would
so
never
on.
choose to canter from one place to another, he would choose to trot. Yeah, he would actually choose a massage probably.
And the yeah, he's good at piaffe and massage and stuff. Has a really nice trot actually. But a canter, that's work. And his breeder is fascinated with the warm-led trots. You would love to have a horse in the Olympic Games. So he thinks he needs to breed the warm-led trot into the Lusitano. And he underestimates the importance of the canter that shows in that horse. So I have to work a lot harder to build a canter.
Other horses from the
Yeah.
breeder have good canters.
Yeah,
Oh, street.
that's true.
Good canters.
So
This one,
working on it.
yeah, my ankle's good.
Mhm.
Okay, so. See, we digress, we just, that's why I always say in these, you never know where it's gonna go, we're gonna start talking about this, but you don't know where it's gonna go. We could be talking about planting trees for all you know, I don't know. It could happen. We'd like to talk about that too.
Sally Daddy says, taken from the UK and all signed up as an alumni and really looking forward to redoing this course with my 5-year-old cock Kelly. When I wrote this evening, I was trying to lead with a seat and weight and allowing space for him to move into a lateral and really help explain to him what I was asking.
Nice.
Good, that's awesome, and it mine works.
Helps you that you're already familiar with the materials, and that's the beauty of our courses, right? You know this, Sally, that you can retake them over and over.
Yeah.
And so each time you revisit, it gets a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. Yeah. That's really cool. And then we weren't with me.
All these moves when I was talking about the canter variations. We don't have a horse that can collect that much yet. Should do a canter and a school canter.
Yeah, we have a horse right now, we have.
You know, but right now they're not strong enough yet. They need to get a lot more powerful
Yeah,
to be able to do it.
yeah.
So
I thought the question was about demoing the
at least that's
in the total course.
popped up when I was talking about.
Okay,
these
I'm
chapters.
sure, because I noticed it later, but, okay. You never know, new content. See. We've just started adding to our courses, demos, us writing and,
And finally, you have forces.
narrating as we write. And using some of our top writers also as demo writers. And so this is a brand new edition. We've started with our through the back course, but now we're gonna implement this in all of our courses. And so you never know what we're gonna end up adding in now. Yeah.
Kim Peterson says everything Shana says is true. The quote was mayor that I've been able to dramatically improve for natural gaits using the techniques.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, totally,
Good for you.
totally possible.
Yeah.
It's almost like working miracles,
Yeah.
but you can do it, yeah. And not only he can do it, you can do it too.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can put the ingredients together, right? See the aids, the movements, the patterns and so on, then you can develop the gaits and make them bigger and better, you know,
Yeah.
remove the obstacles. That's also one way of thinking of it. It's like what's holding the horse back
Yeah.
from moving in a spectacular way? Where's constriction? Where's interference? And sometimes it's interference from the rider, sometimes it's maybe a tight muscle somewhere, a little misalignment, a little crookedness, a weakness here. And then if you search for the things that are holding the horse back and you remove them, then the gaits get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's often so it's not a matter of pushing harder to get more movement. It's more like find out what's holding the horse back and preventing him from moving his best, you know, and then remove those obstacles, remove the chains, and then he's free to move, right? The shackles, exactly.
Yes.
The shackles, and
Yeah.
the gates can come out.
Remove the shackles, the gates can come out. Yeah.
So funny sometimes.
It's
It's like Michelangelo, I think, right? Said that when he sees a block of a rock, you know, whatever marble, he sees the finished statue, and then he chips away and removes everything that's not part of that statue. And you can look at it the same way. Remove everything that's not part of the natural gait. Remove anything that's holding the horse back. Remove anything that's preventing the horse from moving fluid, like a cat, elastic, you know, and so on. Find out what's preventing him from moving like that, and then you take that away by suppling joints, muscles, strengthening, and so on. And so the gait should get better as a result.
Yeah.
So
That's nice visual image.
yeah, it works for you.
It's good.
Okay. The Moran says, Sally, I haven't thought about leaving space for them to move into until I found Thomas Shana wants to know it makes perfect sense.
Right?
It does, but yeah, you
No, I
wouldn't
just
think of it yourself.
We had
Unless somebody there took me notes.
this on our own. I don't think anybody taught us this. Really?
One clinic where Mikolka had me, I had a Lusitano in training that was really sweet, really nice horse, but not spectacular. Yeah, not Quevedo. I know it was a sweet horse. I really liked the guy. Just not a very impressive horse in that sense, sweet stallion, you know. And in one lesson, Mikolka just had me trot around in a circle and then told me that now swing up and, you know, support yourself with your knees. I think that's where it started. And the transformation of the horse was amazing. I mean, I was always sitting, you know, in my seat and thought I had to sit in the horse. Yeah. And then he made me explore that, lift up and make room. And then the horse came poof up in the back and very different. And his gaits improved and he felt better. And it's like, damn, why did I not know this for the last 20 years? You know, I've been writing for 20 years at that point and I didn't know that. You know, and so then, and that of course made me obsess about it, and then I explored it and I researched
That's what we
it.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I tried it.
OCD.
And now with all horses. Yeah, but maybe it was 5 minutes in a session, in a writing session, and then he moved on to something else, you know. It was just very small. And for him, it was probably not even a big deal, you know, but for me, that was like a game changer in that kind of way. It became.
No other teacher had ever
Yeah.
said that. I've never heard anybody talk about this, write about it. I've never encountered anybody teaching this is for you.
Yeah, so it was a lucky coincidence in a way, where then as I explored it, I realized how powerful that really is, and how much you can shape the horse's gait by creating spaces. You know, it's like the idea of the water that will fill empty spaces, or make a space where you want the water to go, close the door where you don't want the water to go, give an impulse where you want the water to move away from, you know,
I
that
like
sort of
that.
thing.
It's even better than how I described it
Yeah.
yesterday.
So it's very much the 3D kind of feel of a stream of something, water, energy, anything, right?
Yeah,
And then, yeah, you make an opening here, you close the door there, you give a little in here, you know, and then that's how you shape the gate. Yeah, conceptually simple, but there's like a million different nuances and possibilities that it's a lifelong thing that you'll never reach the end, you'll never fully master it, I guess. It's always more, right? Every horse is different.
which is beautiful.
But yeah, I know it doesn't get boring that way.
Yeah, and it's like you're never at the end, like, you know, this, I'm at the end of the internet, you know, you're never at the end. You've never discovered everything. There's a discovery, and that could be frustrating, that could be, you know. I don't know, disempowering, I guess, if you look at it in a way that the goal is to learn everything to finish it. But the goal for us is not to finish it, it's to stay in love with it. It's to stay in love with learning. And so as long as you can find more things to explore, more things to wake up to, then that's success, you know?
Yeah. First time wants to know how you acquire the horses you have now, how many you have in training.
We have none in training. We own every horse we have. That was a long time coming. For many years, we just were just normal professional dressage trainers. We took horses in training. We took everything because we had to, because we struggled financially like most dressage trainers do. So we had to just take everything, no matter what, which meant we had a lot of learning opportunities. I mean, it was good. What it made was really, really good. It was really hard. I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, lots of difficult horses.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to really do this now. Now we own all the horses we have. We have soft hearts. So a lot of the horses we have are some rehab projects.
Yeah, we have some
You know,
injuries, a couple of retired horses.
Yeah. Pony for our daughter that she rides like 3 times a year.
2 nice young ones that were starting.
Yeah, 2 young ones that were starting under saddle. Okay, Thomas is me.
Yeah, I have one that I'm riding. You know, Shana has several that she rides.
I ride.
But they all have little issues, you know,
All
with
my
their back,
horses.
with their hind legs, with something, they're all.
I don't usually choose projects. I just ended up with a lot of projects right now. So I have, and he has a Lusitano, black Lusitano stallion named Billy Beamish that we bought from a breeder who was the boyfriend of a friend of ours, okay?
Yeah.
And
He's a good horse.
he's a good, really amazing character, like deep, soulful character, amazing.
And he likes to work. He thrives on hard work.
Loves the work,
The more you work him, the happier he is.
which is a great combination for him, and he's not a hot. Nervous horse, which is perfect for him. That's the kind of horse he really thrives with. We all have a kind of horse we really thrive with, and that's perfect for him. They're a beautiful combination, really good. I have Dollar, who is a gray Lusitano stallion that came to us with all sorts of health issues. Oh my God, he had a neurological condition, he had teeth growing
Someone inside the jaw.
in places they shouldn't, and they came through the bone in all sorts of weird places, and the vet said there may be more, you know, he had melanomas, he had ulcers, he had hoof problems, he had a cyst in a knee, he had, I mean, just I had a long list of things, and I couldn't even write him for, I bought him, and then I wrote him a few times, and could write him for like 8 years. That, you know, took a long time to sort everything out. It was like everything came bubbling to a head, and had to just create this safe place for him to heal and get healthy. And now I'm writing him. Now he's sound. He wasn't sound for a long time. He's sound, he's healthy, he's thriving. We're having a great time. But he had been written exclusively in a double bridle, you know, crammed together, you know. It goes on autopilot in the canner, you have like, you know, it's like, good luck, you know, communicating with him, he's just like, I know the program, yeah, we can fly changes, blah, 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 you know. And it's like, oh, no, all I want to do is just canner, you know. And so teaching him to pay attention and stay on the aids is my focus with him right now. Okay. I also have Fedora, who's another project. He had been rescued, salvaged from some starvation lot somewhere. He was skin and bones, starved to death. He had some trailer accident or something like that. We don't know exactly, but he has some back injury, he has some scarring, all sorts of stuff. So he's kind of a touchy situation, amazing, beautiful soul, sweetest horse, a little neurotic. I love him. And I have Iolico, which is Lusitano we bought when we still lived in Germany. He's from Spain. Funny thing, his name Iolico means the wind, and he hates the wind, and we have a lot of wind here. So, I mean, he like completely loses it when it's windy. So I don't ride him when it's windy. So, that's a funny thing. But he's a great horse. We have 2 Libisons still that we brought from the US. One is Shana, the one we were talking about that moves like amazing. But he's retired now. He has health issues that he has no teeth anymore, you know, stuff like that. So he's done. He's not working ever again. I switched on riding him a year ago a little bit, but now it's not at all. And he just has a place until he decides he needs to go. You know, he's a hard horse. And then I have another Libison that I bred. We still lived in the US. That I brought with me here, and I never find time to ride him. He's an outstanding horse with huge power. He's tiny.
14-2.
He's 14-2. He's a bay Libison. He has like mega power. He's gelding because I gelded him since a stallion. He had too much power.
We were in a boarding barn in Germany, and he just couldn't handle all the horses going by.
It was too
People
chaotic.
were not conscientious.
No, and he was just so testosterone and out. I mean, he was fine for riding, but he was so unhappy with me. So we decided, let's give him a better quality of life. And now he turned out horses, the other geldings and stuff. So that's a good thing. And so when I get it around, I'll ride him again. I have another this is one of gelding that is a rehab project that I'm gently working with when I have the time. I have to be in the right groundedness to work with him, and so I'm steadily bringing him along. We have 2 Lusitano young horses that we're starting under saddle, and then we have an older one that we got from our friend. He had been saved from basically the meat market.
Yeah, he was going to go to the butcher, and then my friend bought him cheaply. He'd been abused and
They flipped over. That's why they he had gone to the meat guy, because he just would flip over. And he had never been ridden in anything but a double bridle pretty much his entire life. He was He's completely contracted in his body. Sweet horse, we've used him in a bunch of our courses right now. He's not in work, but if I had time, I could bring him into work maybe, but he's older too, so you will be, and with soundness issues, so you always, judge, is it fair, is it good use of my time, maybe I should put my time into the young horses instead, is it good? Now he's safe to ride, I would put my daughter on him, no
It's
question,
very sweet horse,
absolutely fine, yeah.
but I think it's hard work for him. Carrying a rider, lifting the back, and sometimes I get the feeling he never went really through the back
Oh,
on the bit before he came to us, and that changing that was so hard for him. I don't know, felt a little bad, because it's so difficult.
Yeah, it was
Mhm.
really hard for him to work correctly. He had been ridden just kind of like in a circus fashion his whole life, just in a double ride, crammed up, backdropped, like this. And he never realized how he could move differently, and trying to do so with already arthritic changes in his body was just maybe too hard. He was willing, absolutely willing, never in that never, ever with us. But it's still obviously very hard for him. So those are our horses, our lovely little projects right now. Nice question, Beth. I never get to talk about personal stuff. Okay.
So Kathy. So Shana found that having the information presented in one course was really helpful, even though the info may have been given in another course. I thought the total course was brilliant.
Yeah, that was our idea, to compile all of this and bring it just a spotlight on your seat aids, just on applying your aids and communicating with the horse. Because that is often the missing ingredient for a lot of people. And yeah, we cover all of these things in our other courses too, in little bits, because of course, it's all interrelated. You can't separate out, you can't extract the seat aids from straightness. You can't extract the seat aids from contact and connection. You can't extract the seat aids from the horse moving correctly through the back. All of these things, of course, they're related. But it's nice to have that spotlight, and in this course also, we haven't talked about this a whole lot. We have all of these rider exercises, the Feldenkrais, we have imagery lessons where you have one image that you're focusing on for that week, and it's something that inspires something that helps you to sit better, move better, give your aids better, how your aids should flow from yourself into the horse, that sort of thing. And so you have one thing to focus on for each week. That helps you really kind of bring it into your being, bring all of the theory and the exercises and all of these things into it's the glue, it pulls it together. And so thank you, Kathy. I think it's a really worthwhile course. I think this is a course that everyone should take regardless of what level they're at, regardless of what their goals are, regardless of what other courses they want to take, ours or anybody else's. It's the stuff that they can apply this everywhere. It doesn't matter, you can apply it to everything. Kathy said, this makes me wonder about Passage and Piaf. Do you need to leave even more room in the back for these movements? Great question.
Yeah, for the Passage it helps if you really emphasize the swinging in the Piaf. Yeah, you have to
lighten your seat.
When you look at pictures and videos of really good riders in the Piaf, they often almost sit in a bit of a fork seat.
You mentioned this yesterday. I was thinking about this all day.
Because if you sit too hard, you squash the hind legs and you drop the back, and then the hind legs get nailed to the ground and they can't move. And then they go front legs out in front and they invert, and then everything falls apart from there. So, and it's tricky, you don't want to put them on the forehand, you don't want to balance them. But you need to make room for the back to lift.
I think the really important thing is that you need to be able to be mobile with your back and with your seat and your waist, so that it's never getting stuck, it's never squashing the horse down. It might press the horse down, but then it's resilient and allows the horse to bounce back up, and you're able to move your weight and your seat. Yeah, I don't mean wobbly and moving around. It's very subtle, but that you can move your seat around each stride. So like here, I'm weighting my left seat bone, now I'm weighting my right seat bone. I don't look like I'm wobbling or bouncing around a whole lot, but the effect, of course, can be very different. And this absolutely applies with the piaffe massage work because the straightness, the crookedness issues come out quite a bit in the piaffe massage. And so you can really help to emphasize the lift or the pressing down of the hind leg. Yeah.
What Debbie says, yeah, my horse is struggling with the left hand rein to transit to canter. She falls in and I'm continuously stirrup stepping her on the outside to keep her out. Do you have any suggestions and exercise to help her? Well, if you have the problem on the left that she falls in, she's probably stiff on the left and hollow on the right. So I would enlarge from the inside leg, move the horse out a little bit. And then you can step into the outside stirrup if you want to. And after the enlarging, you could half fold into the outside hind. So when the outside hind is down, maybe half fold with the inside rein into the outside hind to transfer the weight from the inside shoulder onto the outside hind, and then ask for the canter part. That's the easiest thing to do. Is the first thing I would try. If that doesn't work, then you can try something more complicated. But it's common that horses have trouble in the stiffer direction to do a transition to the canter. And if it's like a mild crookedness, then enlarge from the inside leg and then half fold with the inside rein into the outside hind will already be enough probably. If it's like an old habit, if the horse has been doing this for 10 years and it's really deeply ingrained, then it will take longer.
Yeah.
Then it'll be.
There was this saying about the time that it takes to get there is the time that it takes to get out.
Yeah, I had an old teacher would say like if the horse took like 3 years to build a habit, it will take you 3 years to get back to square one, to the point where he was when he started the habit. And then you can build,
In reality,
it's a little bit speed.
in truth, I find that you can actually make better time than that, but it's really good for your brain and your mindset to think it's gonna take that long to do it, so that you're not making unrealistic expectations of your horse, thinking, we've been working on this for 6 months now. Come on, you should be over you should stop leaning on the reins, whatever it is. So it helps you to keep things in perspective better. Let's see. Did you answer that one?
No,
Sorry, I was dealing with the mirror, so.
So yeah, that says, I don't know if you got this question yesterday or not, but would like to answer. I used to walk and when the inside hind leg is up. It's always the same. Canter part always when the outside hand is on the ground. The outside hand lifts you. So whether you're cantering from the trot or from the walk, it's the same. You just have to have enough energy. You have to have the hind legs enough underneath you. You have to have the outside hand fixed enough. So that the horse is able to lift you up. If he's lacking energy, or if the hind leg is out behind somewhere, he will not flex, then he won't be
The
able
horse
to.
must be relatively compact, in good balance, have good energy, be in front of the leg and seat. Okay, in full. So that when you give that aid, the horse responds with jump. Then you press the outside hind leg into the ground, and then you give the aid, and the horse comes up to the canter. If the horse doesn't do that, then you didn't have your prerequisites in place, or the horse was not understanding the aid. So then you go back to square one, and you work on these things. And you develop the understanding for the aid by actually polishing the trot to canter aid, and then you can come to the walk to canter aid. There's a progression. We did talk about that in this course, but we're also going to be talking about it in, what is it, a week and a half? Less than a week and a half, in a little over a week, we will be beginning a new challenge. Simple changes and fine changes challenge, so stay tuned for that. And we're within that simple changes is the the canter to walk transition and the walk to canter transition. This is a vital component to the flying change. You want to make sure that's in place before the flying change, so we combine this all together. We're talking about it all in 1 week. So stay tuned for that. But we do talk about the aids in this course too, in the timing of the aids course. I don't hear anything like that. Are you? I don't know. Let me know if you are. Are you there?
This is just for the walk you ask when the front leg is on the ground. Well, you ask when the inside hind lifts up, and that's more or less when the inside front is on the ground. But before you can ask for the canter, you have to prepare, you have to get the outside hind underneath you and flex. And then you can ask. Like when everything else is in place, then you can give the aid for the canter.
Yeah, my timing, it's always that I have holds, I press the outside hind leg a little to the ground, make sure it really connects. And then I drive right at the moment when the inside hind is starting to pick up. And my driving aid is a specific aid that asks for the canter rather than the trot. Yeah, we can talk about all of this more. Okay, I think maybe that's a wrap. Do we have any more questions? There were none posted in our Q&A thing.
No, just the one.
From, let me just check. Because our helpers, some of them are on standby, some might already. So. Some people have a lot of Zoom problems today. Zoom weird sometimes. Lately, Zoom has been really good. It's been really cheap. And like hardly anybody on this book. Watch YouTube. Just one time.
Gibt es oder YouTube so Stimmen sind verschwommen und sehr schwer zu verstehen. So I guess on YouTube the sound was indistinct for the one German lady. I don't know if that's
Sorry, hi.
universal or if it's just the one.
Maybe inside the like, what are you doing over here? And it shouldn't be way over there, and I don't know how it got moved. Sorry, I hope you guys can hear us.
Yeah.
Beth says, yeah, it seems to be cutting out. I'm sorry. That's a bummer, huh? I hope you could piece it together. Yeah, some days the internet's just not very good. I don't know if it's the internet, I don't know if it's Zoom, I don't know. You never know. No worries. Yeah, I'd like it to be perfect. Maybe the replay will be good, maybe it will.
Could be
It may be better
if it's the internet, then sometimes the replay is better than
if it's the internet on their end and not our end.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we wrap it up here. We've been
Yeah.
a little bit over an hour and 15 minutes. Just as a reminder, our timing of the AIDS course starts tomorrow. We're having our first Q&A and welcome session tomorrow evening. And we'll be answering questions right away. We'll also be explaining how the course works, how we're going to be going about things.
Maria's has made a big difference in handling internet service.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
I need to remember that to keep it closer.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay. Well, next I'm gonna.
Yeah. We're imperfect.
So yeah, let's finish tonight.
The timing of the aid starts tomorrow. Do you want to drop the link in here one more time, just to be sure? Please, if you're on the fence, consider joining us. There's a 30-day guarantee, so jump into the course if you like it. If you don't, just let us know and we'll give you all your money back. No problem. I want you to give it a full try. Your horse will thank you for it. You come in and try the things. No one has gone through this course and it not had improvement. We have had a few people that wanted out because they had financial problems. But nobody has gone through this course and said, oh, I didn't learn anything good, nothing helped my horse. Everybody's been like, "Ah, all these things I could have learned years ago."
Yeah.
So please. Consider coming to the course. We would love to have you. We start tomorrow. So we'll see you there. Hopefully.
Right.